Hey, so we finally got a new 4-star. Unfortunately, I'm a bit short on time, so I don't have enough of it to pad out the video for ad revenue, but I'll cover the important bits. So, we have the 4-star Vanguard agent Снегурочка. To my surprise, the name does not mean Snow White. It relates back to Soviet times when Christianity was banned, so they couldn't celebrate Christmas. So they came up with a totally original Do Not Steal character of Grandpa Frost and some snow woman, and decorated the house with that instead. This is kind of funny if you know that Christmas predates Christianity as well. I guess the desire to decorate around New Year's and get pissed drunk is immortal. Anyhow, in Bulgarian we have the same character, and there she's called Snežanka, which is also the name we use for Snow White, because Bulgarians are lazy. It's also a salad. The salad is pretty good. I'll just call her after the salad. So, the Agent Vanguard Snežanka. Agents should be pretty broken. Let's see what we got. In terms of stats, she got defense and health, and the model also gives defense and health. Defense on an agent is somewhat worthless to begin with, because you do not want agents to get hit. Their base defense is shit. But it's even more worthless on Snežanka in particular because of her talent. She gains ASPD, but loses it when she gets hit until her next deploy. She gains 12 ASPD without her module, and with the module at level 3 it goes up to 17 ASPD. For comparison, Click just gains 12 ASPD, and with module it goes up to 18 ASPD, without any kind of condition that they lose it if they get hit. So yeah, demerit without compensation. Pretty typical AG stuff. You could argue that ASPD is better on an Agent Vanguard because it increases their DP generation as well as their DPS. Given their attack stat, their DPS and its existence is rather questionable, but all the same, let's look at the skills. Her first skill, and sadly probably her better one, is Puzzle S1 but worse. Instead of 5 SP cost, it has 7 SP cost. So instead of every 6 attacks, it's every 8 attacks. She does increase damage and gains 3 DP. Now she does attack faster than Puzzle, and on her potentials she also has 5 ASPD. So with her talent that's 22 ASPD. Agents have an attack interval of 1 second, and that's roughly an attack every 0.82 seconds. So the skill should charge roughly every 6.5 seconds as long as she has a target, which would give us, since the skill gives 3 DP, that's an average DP generation of something like 0.45 DP per second, something around that. Now that's worse than Puzzle. Puzzle generates 0.5 DP per second, but more relevant to me, it's also worse than Myrtle. Myrtle herself has a 22 SP cost on her skill, and the skill lasts 8 seconds for 14 DP, around 0.4666, etc. DP per second. Unfortunately for Snežanka, her S1 is outright worse than Myrtle at DP generation. Unlike how Puzzle can do it, she doesn't actually outscale, even with all the extra attack speed. It is offensive recovery, so in a circumstance like contingency contract or something like that, where we have very reduced SP generation, provided she has a target she can hit, she will provide way more DP than Myrtle. But outside of that circumstance, this isn't useful as DP generation because Myrtle is better. And the damage from it isn't really useful, because she only has 537 attack. Neither her potential or her trust or her mod will give her any attack, so her actual damage is extremely low. For comparison's sake, we have 700 on Vigna, 600 on the Bad Vanguards. She basically has the same attack as Myrtle. That's kind of what we're working with, even if she attacks faster. Very niche skill, only useful if we have some SPD buffs or for some reason just refuse to use Myrtle. Being a fast redeploy, or well, not even a fast, moderately quicker redeploy at 50 seconds isn't too relevant. Now for the skill 2. So, I don't have masteries on it yet. I assume it will be plus 40 ASPD, she gains 1 DP per hit and slows the target. This is the same slow that slow supporters apply for 80%. Now, this skill has a 33 SP cost. At Mastery 3 she has to be deployed for 10 seconds before she can activate her skill 2, and then her skill 2 only lasts for 9 seconds. She does gain ASPD from it, and should probably go to somewhere around 150 ASPD, even without the Masteries. I assume she gains 5 per Masteries, but I haven't looked it up. At 150-160 ASPD, it should reduce her attack interval to around 0.6 seconds, or a bit more than that. In 9 seconds she would get about 14-15 DP, and then you either have to wait over 30 seconds for the skill to recharge, or retreat her, which is then 50 seconds until she can be deployed, another 10 seconds before the skill charges up again from the next deploy. In terms of damage, that's nothing. Attack speed combined with her non-existent attack means the skill is essentially worthless as DPS. Even against 0 defense, you'd get something like 9000 damage out of it at best, which is less than nothing. In terms of DP generation, that's much worse than her skill 1. If you have to wait for it, because not redeploying her is faster, it's something around 0.3 DP per second, because the load time is so long on the skill. So if you just want pure DP, you're better off using her S1. Neither skill is useful as DPS, but S1 is still better. And finally we have the slow on her skill. She can provide a bit of crowd control. There are two problems with this, or should I say three. The first and most obvious one would be the range of an agent. She simply has a very small range, which limits the amount of time she can apply the slow for, even before it runs out. If we look at someone like Mei, for example, because her range is so much larger, she can keep slowing an enemy for a much longer period. And then on top of that, we have to deal with the skill duration itself. Because it only lasts for 9 seconds, and then has a massive skill downtime, she just doesn't have a good skill cycle. She can't effectively be used to help with crowd controlling something, because if I'm in a situation where I need to crowd control something, I'm likely to bring someone like Mei who has a much stronger crowd control. So this skill doesn't do any damage, doesn't generate any effective DP, and the crowd control is probably going to be useless. In short, this Vanguard is bad. Bad. Very bad. I am going to struggle to find cases to use her. The best I can go for is probably playing around her S1, which with a spinach or something I guess becomes somewhat usable in IS. But outside of IS or some maps where you have really reduced SP generation and need a Vanguard, I cannot see a use for this character. Their talent is complete nonsense, because the value you get doesn't match the demerit. Her stat lines combined with her talent makes no sense, because she gets defense but doesn't want to be hit, and then she doesn't generate DP or do any damage. So unfortunately the 4-star agent is pretty bad. I assume you'd rather get Myrtle in most circumstances even when you're playing IS, though I will defend her in this one circumstance. For IS you might want to prefer her over Myrtle, because this skill doesn't gain any reduced SP cost or increased DP generation from masteries, which means that an E1 Snežanka is going to be almost as good as an E2 max Snežanka generating DP, in which case you have a circumstance where she should be better than Myrtle. At level 7, Myrtle only has 3 extra seconds on her skill, so that's a skill cycle of 33 seconds, 14 DP, 33 seconds, which gives us an SP generation from Myrtle of 0.42 DP per second, which is a bit worse than Snežanka would be, if only barely. So, the only circumstance outside of item stacking or some map with reduced SP generation where I can find use for her is as an E1 Vanguard, where she's just barely better than Myrtle. Yeah, not much to add to that. I'm really not seeing any positives here. I'll test her around and I'll see what I can do once I have masteries, but so far this seems like one of the worst 4 stars I've gotten in a long time. Now, unfortunately I have stuff to do today, so that will be all. See you in a few days.